So hello and welcome to Narayana IAS Academy. My name is Yogesh Kotabar. I'm your faculty for daily news analysis. So today, as part of our daily news analysis, we'll be looking at three different articles posted in The Hindu and Indian Express. These are the most important articles we found in the newspapers. The first article mentioned in The Hindu, it talks about Russia's geopolitical pivot to Asia. We are observing there is a geopolitical shift in the entire world, and we are observing changes in the foreign policy of Russia. So, Russia being a very important partner for India, a bilateral partner, we need to discuss this article in detail. The second article mentioned on Indian Express, page number 4, this talks about TRAI exploring pricing models for satellite spectrum. Now, there is a controversy regarding the pricing model which is presently used, and many students do not understand what is this satellite spectrum. So, we'll understand what exactly it is. And then there is third article, keep the fire of the self-respect movement going. This is about the self-respect movement which has completed 100 years, and usually UPSC asks questions related to the event which is very important and which has completed such significant stage of 100 years. So these three articles are important. After which we'll also discuss some prelims practice questions, one mains practice question, obviously. Okay, so let's get started. If you have any query, I suggest please ask in the comment box. I'll be checking the comment box repeatedly. So let's get started with the first article that is related to Russia. Now, what is the context? We are saying Russia is changing its foreign policy. Earlier, Russia used to focus more on the European region, and nowadays, Russia is focusing more on the Asia. They want to depend more on Asia rather than Europe. And this is happening because of the geopolitical changes. This terminology is very important. Geopolitical. Now, many students do not know what is geopolitics. If I have to say it simply, it is said that the foreign policy of a country can be decided by the geography of that country. It is said that if you know the geography of a country, then you can definitely tell what the international forums, international countries, other countries are going to have foreign policy towards that country. Let's say, for example, if you are having geography where there are so many minerals, where you have natural gas, or maybe you are having oil. So if I'm talking about the Gulf region where there is oil field, where there is natural gas, you will see that most of the countries around the world will be more interested in this region. That's why you see the politics that goes on around the Gulf region or the Middle East is very much complex. So we are saying the politics depends on the geography. And now we are saying this geopolitical landscape itself is changing. What do I mean by that? I'm trying to say that the geopolitical equations that were existing earlier, now they are changing. So first we need to know what kind of relations, what kind of equations earlier used to exist. So if we go back to the history and we think about the time period of World War II, if you remember the period of 1945, after the World War II, you observe there were only two countries who were considered as the most powerful or the superpowers. That is USA and another is USSR. These are the two countries. Now you observe that the politics that was going on throughout the world, the geopolitics which you call, that was only surrounding these two countries. That's why we call the time period as a bipolar time period, where there are only two poles. One pole is USA, another one is USSR. And this was happening till the time of 1991. Now you observe that by the time of 1991, USSR disintegrated. And we observed that there was only one superpower in the world, and that was United States of America. Now we are saying that the world politics is being shaped by the foreign policy of United States of America. Even we saw that India became part of WTO. We brought some amendments in our constitution which talk about democratic decentralization. democratic decentralization. Before that, we brought LPG policy. All of these events depend on the world geopolitics. So we are saying in this time period, now moving ahead from 1991 till 2000, this is the time period in which we are saying that USA was the dominating country. Now, after some time, we observe that is after 2000 specifically, we observe that in the world, the USA's power was declining. And when we say USA, we also talk about all the Western countries. All the Western countries are led by USA. So in Western countries, you can talk about UK, Germany, France, all these countries. Now, because USA's power is declining, now when I say power, it is related to your economy also. If you are not economically good, we cannot say you are powerful enough. And at the same time, we are observing some other countries in the other part of the world, they were doing better. For example, you can talk about China. China has grown exponentially. Even India has grown in a very good manner since 1991 reforms. So right now, what is happening? Right now, there is a shift in the geopolitics wherein the power is not concentrated in the hands of USA or Western countries, but now it is shifting towards Asian countries, which includes China, India, and some other countries, which even we can say even Russia is part of it. And now there are some tensions started since the war of Ukraine. So Russia-Ukraine war, which started just 1 year back, 2022. Since that time, we are observing that Russia, which was earlier very much interested in having good relations with the European countries, is now thinking about recalibrating its policies. They are changing their policies, and now they want to focus more on Asia. And when I say Asia, it means China as well as India. Now, as far as we are concerned, we are more interested in knowing what it will have impact on India-Russia relations. But before that, let's have a brief understanding of why this is happening, why Russia is looking towards Asia. First reason is the sanction. We saw that when this war started, Russian invasion of Ukraine or Russia-Ukraine war, it started. After that, all the Western countries have started putting some sanction on Russia. Sanctions means they will say that you will not have access to our market. They will not give access to the technologies. So for example, there was one thing called SWIFT. This was a messaging system related to the payment which takes place throughout the world. Let's say, for example, you're buying something from Russia. You have to make payment. Russia is selling something to, let's say, America. There, the payment has to be taken place. For all those payment, one messaging system was there, and that was named as SWIFT. But after this war, what happened? Russia was taken out from all of these systems. Many sanctions were there put on Russia. Now, because of this, what is happening? Russia has become alone. Russia has become isolated. Now, when you become isolated, there is no private investment coming to your country from Western countries. Nobody is coming to you. You will try to find new partners. So you are now looking at China and India, because anyway, China and India are growing. They are emerging economies. They are going to grow. And there's nothing wrong for Russia to move towards China and India when it comes to economy specifically. Then they too want to diversify their economic sector. Now, Russia is very much dependent to some extent on the defense production, to some extent on the energy production. We know that Russia sells us energy. And since the war has started, India has been one of the largest buyer of Russian oil. Nobody is buying Russian oil. India said, we will buy. There is benefit for India. There is benefit for Russia. For Russia, there is no customer. So Russia is finding it good that there is one customer. For India, it is beneficial because we are getting the oil in a discounted price, especially when there is so much instability and uncertainty in the world. We don't know, somewhere in Israel there is war going on. Someday we will see some other war going on in another part of the world. So there is uncertainty in the world, and whenever there is uncertainty, there is chance of disruption of supply chain. There is a possibility the oil which comes to our country, that supply can be disrupted. And if the supply is disrupted, what will happen? You do not get the supply of oil. Suddenly the demand of oil will increase, and suddenly the price of oil will increase, and that is not good for our economy, because if you have very high priced oil, then you will see all other products, their price will also increase. So it is beneficial for both countries. But if you are looking at simply at Russia, they are more interested in diversifying their economy. And third is the strategic alliance. When we say the word strategic, it means a country is planning on a long term basis. They are thinking for, let's say, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. They are thinking that even if Russia is right now little bit dependent on Europe, or let's say America or any other country, they are thinking about a broader plan. In next 10, 15, 20 years, what will happen? The world will be dominated much by China. It will be dominated to some extent by India also. It's not only USA who is going to lead the world. So in that case, if you have really good alliance with China and India, that is going to benefit Russia in a very good manner. So this is the reason why there is change in the politics, geopolitics. Now, moving ahead, let's discuss about the India-Russia relations. Now, this is the section which matters to us. Now, first of all, almost everyone knows that India-Russia relations are growing since the time of independence, right? India-Russia relationship is said to be time-tested relationship. And right now, if you see, the most important part of our relationship is the defense sector. You see, since 1947 till now, the maximum defense import that India has done, you have bought some kind of a equipment, let's say some artillery you have bought, S-400 you have bought. If you look at all of these things, we buy maximum defense related equipments from Russia. Then other countries are there. And right now we are also buying from other countries. Let's say we are buying from France, from USA, from Israel. But still we see that maximum products come from Russia. So we have a really good partnership when it comes to defense sector. But India is thinking, or Russia is thinking, that we will not only stick to this part. We will diversify. We will have relationship which is relatively broader. Okay. Second, if you look at the trade. Now earlier there was trade, but right now since the war has started, we are observing India-Russia trade relations have increased. For example, this data you must know that in 2022 June, there was 3.5 billion US dollar. This was the bilateral trade between India and Russia. And by the time of 2024 May, it has become 7.5 billion. So it has increased 2 times, and maybe even it will increase further. This shows that India-Russia trade relations are growing. That's for sure. Then third thing, if you specifically talk about the energy partnership, see, the country like India, who has got a big demography, we have 140 crore population, and this population requires energy security. We need oil, we need natural gas. Because of that energy, we can sustain our economy. Let's say suddenly the supply of crude oil stops. Do you think our economy can grow in the manner in which it is growing right now? It is not possible. So we need that supply, and we have a good partner who can help us right now. So we are interested in this relationship. And there is angle of strategic dialogue. Strategic, again I said, the long-term dialogue that are taking place. So many times you must have observed some high-level meetings taking place between India and Russia. So President Putin meeting Prime Minister Modi. And in those meetings, some targets are set for the bilateral relations. For example, a target was set that we will increase our trade to $100 billion by the year 2030. Now, this is an ambitious target, but please understand, when both countries are agreeing that we are going to have this target, that means they are building up their relation in a strategic manner. So, this kind of a relationship we are having, or we are building with Russia. Okay, I hope you got it. Now, before moving ahead, let me check some comments if there is any question. Good evening, very important topic. Okay, no question. Let's move ahead. Now, in this relationship, or in this geopolitical changes or shift in the geopolitical arena, what kind of challenges India and Russia may face in building their relationship? First is the self-reliance policies. See, India is having the policy of Make in India. You will observe similar kind of policy in Russia also. They call it industrial nationalism. Sometimes this term is used by scholars. That Russia also wants that maximum industries should work in Russia. They should have their manufacturing base in Russia. And right now, because of this Russia-Ukraine war and these sanctions, there is no investment coming to Russia. So Russia will be also feeling that we should have this nationalist policy, self-reliance policy. So there is a chance that if they want to build their self-reliance, we want to build our self-reliance, how can we collaborate? So this is a big challenge which we need to tackle. The second issue that we will have is limited areas of high value trade. Now, if you look at the trade which takes place between India and Russia, there is a problem. We do not have a trade which is having broad products. We have only few products, that too specifically consumer goods. Let's say we are exporting textile products to Russia. We are exporting pharmaceutical products to Russia. But can you think about some high-end value goods? When we say high-end value goods, you can think about some computers, some machineries, or let's say the kind of products we build. Let's say this electronic goods, automotive components, IT products, IT services. India is good at IT services, but we are not selling those things to Russia. So that means there is some disconnection when it comes to our trade. We are not dealing in high value trade goods. We are only dealing with smaller products. Okay. Then there is problem of logistics. Now see, if you look at the map, we have India. Let's say this is the map of India. Here you will find China. Here you will find Russia. Now the problem is there is no direct route through which India and Russia can access each other's market. There is no direct route available, and because of which it is very difficult to increase our trade relations. Now here we are already working on a project called INSTC, if you have heard about it. I'll show you the map, just a second. So here in this map you can see the INSTC project. So here the project says that we will build a route through which India and Russia will be connected through this map. For example, India will be connected to Iran, then to Azerbaijan, then to Russia. Through this route, we can have a good trade with Russia directly. Right now, we do not have any passage as such. But if I'm talking about the present reality, right now we do not have much logistical infrastructure available to go ahead with such initiatives. Okay. Now, then there is problem with these sanctions and financial barriers. You see, you will say sanctions are there on Russia, not India. But sanctions clearly say that any country or any company who will trade with Russia, who wants to trade with Russia, they cannot make use of the mechanisms that are there available with Western countries. So I talked about the SWIFT mechanism. Similarly, whenever you try to trade with Russia, US will put some pressure, Europe will put some pressure on India that you should not go ahead with that. So many a times India has to sustain that pressure to go ahead with such things. Then there is angle of technological and educational cooperation. You look at US-India relationship and then compare it with India-Russia relationship, you will find that when it comes to education, when it comes to technology, to some extent, we are still facing problems when it comes to cooperation. So overall, if India-Russia relations, you want that these relationships should grow, we need to focus on all these angles. We need to tackle all these challenges. So if I have to provide some solution in the form of way forward, what can India do? What India and Russia can do to build this relationship? First of all, you need to build an institutional framework. We said we don't have any payment mechanism right now to directly trade with Russia. So first of all, India can move ahead with a stable and new payment mechanism through which India-Russia can trade easily. Or you can say, you can ask for Russia to bring some banks, open some Russian banks in India through which the transactions can take place directly. There is one other option. If you do not make use of United States dollars, make use of Indian rupees or Russian currency, then also you can directly bypass the SWIFT mechanism. So moreover, we are talking about building some infrastructure which will allow us to have that connection. Then we can have investment protection agreement. See, in Russia, what happened? Suddenly, after the Russia-Ukraine war, which was started, suddenly we observed that many countries who had some investment in Russia, they suddenly said, we are not going to have this investment. We are removing our shops and everything from Russia. So there is need of some investment protection agreement, that in case of any problem, in case of any conflict, we and our investment will be protected. For that, an agreement has to be taken place between these two countries. That is very important. There should be some arbitration system also. Arbitration means if there is a problem, let's say there is a company which has brought some investment in India, and something happened, some issue happened, because of which they want to go to court, or they don't want to go ahead with that investment. So to solve such issues, you need to have some alternative judicial mechanism, which we call as arbitration system. That is highly important. Okay. Then before moving ahead, let's check some comments. So what if Russia and China work together to pressurize India using Pakistan as proxy, given that India is moving close to United States, Russia's rival? So Varun is saying, if Russia and China work together, they are anyway working together, first of all. But they pressurize together, try to pressurize India using Pakistan as a proxy. See, China would be interested in doing this. Russia will not be interested in doing this. Russia has no bad relations with India, please understand. We have a decent relationship, and that's why Russia will not be interested in doing this particular act for now. Okay? Then, sir, why should India prefer Russia over USA? Now, why should India prefer Russia over USA? The simple answer could come from this Galwan clash which took place with China. If you remember, United States of America did not come to help. It was little bit help which we tried to take from Russia. Even the talks which took place between China and India, those were led by Russia. So to some extent, Russia is our partner. And if you understand the geopolitics, there is a saying in geopolitics since ancient times. If you remember Kautilya in his book Arthashastra, he says that your neighbor is your enemy and your neighbor's neighbor is your friend. So simply, India's neighbor is China and China's neighbor is Russia. So naturally, Russia becomes a good partner for us. This is the realistic international politics. In theoretical terms, they say that real politic always prefers such natural allies. So simply, India, that's why prefers Russia. Why over USA? Because it is very difficult to trust on USA. Because many a times USA goes ahead with policy which is having some hidden agenda. So we have to think about it. Santosh Reddy is asking, sir, what is multipolarity? Simply, the term polarity, if you understand, pole. Do you know poles? In your school playground, there must be a pole. So there is one pole over here, one pole over here. Let's say there are 100 people sitting here. Suddenly you saw that there is a fire over here. So let's say 40 people gone this side, 60 people gone this side. So we are saying some people are in the pole A, some people are on the side of pole B. So here there are two poles. So we are calling it bipolar. So when we talked about 1945, we said that there were two countries who were superpower, USA and USSR. That was bipolarity. That was bipolarity. And if there is only one pole, there is only one superpower, that was USA, that is called unipolarity. Single superpower is there. And if the world is run in such a manner that there is no one superpower or two superpower, there are multiple poles, multiple superpowers. USA is also powerful, Russia is powerful, China powerful, India powerful. So many countries are there who have become powerful. In that case, it is multipolarity. Multiple countries, multiple poles have got developed. That is multipolarity. Okay. Then, sir, what is leading to the power shift from Western countries to Asian countries? That's what we are discussing now. What is leading? Why this is happening? Why this is happening? Simply because the entire economic structures are changing. We said now, for what happened? USA was powerful. Suddenly we saw global financial crisis taking place. due to which US economy, which was growing in a good manner, suddenly saw some recession, right? But at the same time, that means USA, which was very powerful, it started becoming less powerful. And parallelly, the countries which were smaller, they started becoming larger. When it comes to China or India, you can say this, that their economy is growing. That too with a very good pace. In case of India, you see usually 8% growth rate. This is not the case with USA or China or maybe any other country you say. So this is a very good growth rate. So your economy is increasing. When your economic size increases, you put that money in your military, in your technologies, all other stuffs. So you become more powerful. So simply because other countries have become powerful, this is leading to this geopolitical shift. Okay? And in which currency does India and Russia trade take place? See, the international trade usually is taking place in the US dollar. That is considered to be international currency. But there can be a trade in which you can use your local currencies. But for that, you should have a stable currency. Why would Russia be more interested in buying things using Indian rupee? Because see, if they buy something, let's say they have sold you something and you gave them Indian rupee, what will they do with it? Whatever products they need, that cannot be bought through rupees, they need dollars. So simply it depends on the importance of your currency, demand of your currency. Okay, now let's move ahead. So we talked about institutional framework. Another side where we can actually work, that is technological collaboration. Already we are having collaborations, but we can increase it specifically in some of the sectors such as renewable energy, space exploration, and digital technologies. Please understand, nowadays we are talking about these things again and again. Renewable energy, anyway, the world is going to transition towards renewable energy. We cannot be dependent on oil or natural gas. So, this is very important. And so, in such sectors, there can be collaboration and we can have joint manufacturing. We said that Russia has its own Make in Russia plan, we have Make in India plan. If we come together, wherein we are manufacturing a product in a joint manner, then both countries can benefit. So this is how we can find a solution. Then there is angle of logistics. We talked about INSTC project. India needs to go ahead with more talks to build this INSTC project. That project can really help us. And secondly, we can also think about some alternative route. So once Prime Minister Modi had visited Russia, specifically the far east region of Russia. So if you look at the Russian map, Russia is very big. So let's say this is Russia. I'm talking about the far eastern region of Russia. Now this region is very interesting. This region has not been explored by Russia till now. You can imagine this region just like our Chhattisgarh or northeastern part of India, where there are so many minerals. So here there is a chance of getting so many minerals. But the point is nobody has explored it. So Indian government said that we will going to explore, we will put some investment in this region. And there was a saying that there is a region called Vladivostok over here. So government of India thought that we can have a sea route from Vladivostok to India directly. So if we build such routes, we can say that this logistical problem can be solved and India-Russia relations, specifically in terms of trade, can be increased exponentially. Okay. So that's this is the map I've already shown you. Now, apart from that, we talked about the issues related to educational and cultural exchanges. Now, one thing about India-US relationship is that we have people-to-people relations. Many people in India have relations with the people living in USA, and that builds our relationship. When it comes to Russia, we don't have people-to-people relations. Rather, we have government-to-government relations. So, Indian government likes Russian government. This is not the case with US government. Okay. So this we can actually build up in case of Russia. We can ensure that our cultural exchanges take place. Our people go there, their people come here, tourists come. So there will be exchange and this will build our relationship in a very good manner. Then some economic engagement which goes beyond the sectors which we have focused till now. We focused more on defense, we focused more on the energy or oil. Now there is a need of integrating our economies, diversifying them and going beyond these two sectors only. So if we do all of these, we can say India-Russia relationship will be really good. Okay. So this is all about India-Russia relations. Let's say if there is any other question. Okay, so no question. So let's move ahead with the next topic. If you have any question, please ask in the comment box. Okay. Now, the second news item is related to Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. That is in short TRAI, T-R-A-I. Now this authority which is there in India, obviously, they are little bit confused about using a pricing model for this satellite spectrum. They are not sure which model to use. So recently they said that all the stakeholders should provide some comments to us. We want to know which pricing model will be better for these satellite spectrums. Now this topic becomes important for prelims as well as mains. Specifically for prelims, it becomes important for you to know what is this satellite spectrum, what is exactly happening, what is this pricing model exactly. Okay, so let's go with basics. First of all, what is satellite spectrum? Now just imagine and look at this. Let's say this is our earth. Okay, and entire all other thing is your space. In this space we have different satellites. Let's say this is a satellite. Okay, now you are watching a TV series on your television, or let's say you're using your GPS in your mobile phone. All these things, for that you need some connection between this satellite and the mobile device or any other device that you have over here on the earth, right? There is a connection because of which you are able to see that television, right? So here a communication is taking place, and that communication is taking place using radio waves. Okay, this communication is taking place using radio waves. Now just imagine all this region which will be covered by this satellite, the entire region. This region is a highway. Can you imagine a highway on which cars, trucks, bikes and all of these things are going? So imagine this as a highway. I'll write it down over here. So this is a highway. Okay, this region specifically. And this is a satellite. Now here, this highway, usually highways are divided into different lanes, right? In one lane, one truck will go, another lane, some other bike will go, in that manner. Similarly, you can divide this entire space into different spectrums. Okay, those lanes are the spectrums which are based on the frequencies. Now what happens is that if you see, this is a global common good. Do you think anyone owns this particular space? No one. But you see, national governments claim that just like we have our border, just like India has a border, let's say this is the border region of India, we say whatever land is there in this region is national government's land or the sovereign land of India. But it is not just the land. We also have some claims over waters over here. We also have claims over the air. For example, if there is an aeroplane of Pakistan moving from Delhi, let's say, in that case, India can say you cannot go from here. We have not given you the permission. So we say that even this airspace, this is also part of our national territory. So similarly, when you are communicating with the satellite, the space which we are using, this frequency bands or this spectrum which we are using, that will also be claimed by national governments. But for now, it is a global good. Okay, this is spectrum, this is satellite spectrum, and it is claimed by different countries. Now, what we did, we went to United Nations. And United Nations said that we will do one thing. If every government will start claiming every spectrum, every part of that spectrum, in that case there can be conflicts. Let's say we have a company called Geo. Geo is using the spectrum, and the spectrum is also being used by another person in China. He wants to use it too. So there can be a conflict, there can be interruptions. So United Nations came up with a body, a specialized agency of its own, which is named as International Telecommunication Union. Now this body is important. This is a specialized body of United Nations. This body said that for all the national governments, we will ensure that there will not be any kind of interruptions. We'll ensure that there will not be any kind of confusions or fights when it comes to these satellite spectrum. Okay, so they said we will tell you what area of that spectrum. Let's say this is the entire spectrum. So let's say they'll say this part will be allocated to USA, then this part will be allocated to Canada. So similarly, they will allocate exact spectrum which can be used by a specific country. Now because we are part of UN, so everyone adhered to the guidelines given by this particular organization, right? Now whichever spectrum has been allocated, let's say this is the spectrum allocated to India. Okay, let's assume. Now, Indian government will decide out of this spectrum, how much should be given to which particular company or service provider. Let's say government wants to give it to a Geo company. So they'll say this part, only this much part will be given to Geo company. So this will be decided by government. But who will decide? When we say government, who will decide? So we have Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. Similar bodies will be there in other countries too. So this Telecom Regulatory Authority will decide everything, almost everything when it comes to these spectrum. Now just to know some factual part related to Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. It was established with this Act, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India Act 1997. It is headquartered in New Delhi. If you look at the composition, it has one chairperson, two full-time members, two part-time members, and all of the members are appointed by Government of India, and it has the authority to regulate this spectrum. So they will even decide when they are, let's say government is selling a particular spectrum. Let's say last time we were having this news called 5G spectrum is being sold by government, is being auctioned by government. So government can sell, let's say they are selling it to Airtel or Jio or some other company. So what should be the price? How much they should choose? They must charge. Everything will be decided by TRAI. And in case these companies are doing something wrong, in that case, the complaint of consumer will also be taken up by this Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. So very important body, we can say. Now this body is facing a challenge with respect to pricing model of this satellite spectrum. So while, as I said, how much they should charge and how they should charge, this is the problem. Right now we have a model that is called as adjusted gross revenue based model. Now you do not need to worry about this technical terminology. Simply it means that if a company is performing good, they are performing better than others, they are having much more revenue, in that case they will be charged more. Simply this is the model. They will check your performance, your revenue, how much you are earning, and then your charges will be decided on the basis of it. Now please understand, there is a problem with this model. The problem is that, let's say there is this company number 1, company number 2. This company has been allocated 10% of the spectrum, and this company has been allocated 40% of the spectrum. Possibly, now this first company, which is having actually less spectrum, is having more revenue as compared to this company. How this can happen? Possibility is there. Let's say even you take the example of Jio. Initially, they provided the internet almost free of cost. So if a company can manage their resources in such a manner that for some time period, they have just bought your spectrum, but they are not having much revenue to show on paper. In that case, they will pay less amount, and this company, which is a very smaller company, is paying more. So what will happen? Many companies, especially the big corporates, they will start buying more spectrum from the government. They will just buy and hoard it. They'll keep it with themselves. Why? They may think that today we have 5G, in maybe after 10 years we'll have 6G, then 7G, 8G, whatever. So they are making future plans and they will hoard the spectrum. They'll concentrate it with themselves. Now this will have impact on the trade or specifically the competition. A newcomer, a new businessman cannot compete with such companies, cannot have a good spectrum as such, and this will create problem in the business. So we are concerned with this model which we are right now using actually. So we have another option to use this second model, per megahertz spectrum holding based model. Now what this model says, we will check how much spectrum you have and we will charge you accordingly. So if a company is having 40% of the spectrum, let's say, they will be charged accordingly. This much charges will be there. Now again, there is a problem with this system also. You'll say that, sir, this is good. A company which is having 40% of the spectrum, company having smaller, only 10% of the spectrum will be charged less. Problem is that the new company, again a new player which comes into telecommunication sector, they will not have much revenue in the initial period. They will also not have enough spectrum with them. So they will still face problem when it comes to the finances. So they'll also say that, sir, how can we sustain? How can we sustain when you already have given, you are asking us to pay according to the spectrum, but we are a new company. We don't have enough resources. At least give us some tax holiday for a few days, for a few years. We can't pay you. So overall, because a startup usually in first year or second year, they do not earn much amount of money. They may say, how can we provide you some kind of taxation? We have not even earned anything. So this is the problem with this second model. So overall, we are saying we have two models and there are problems with both of these models. So that's the reason they have asked, TRAI has asked scholars, stakeholders to provide their views, and eventually they will decide which model to go ahead with, or maybe they will come up with a third model. So if it comes into picture, we will again read about it in the news. Okay, let's check some of the comments. Okay, no questions. Okay, no problem. Now the third article. Third article is related to self-respect movement. We said that the self-respect movement is going to complete 100 years. We are celebrating 100 years ceremony. This came into picture in the year 1925 and it was led by Periyar, also named as Naikar, E.V. Ramasamy Naikar or Periyar. This person started this particular movement. But why did he start? This person was earlier part of Indian National Congress and he wanted some social reforms to take place in India, specifically in the region of Madras. Now here, what happened is that initially Indian National Congress was much interested in social reforms. But Periyar observed that even Indian National Congress is dominated by the Brahmanical cult or Brahmanical caste. And he did not like that. That's why he resigned from Indian National Congress and he started this particular movement, self-respect movement. The term is important. It is talking about self-respect. It is saying that even if I am a Dalit, even if I am an oppressed person, even if I am at the low strata, I too have some self-respect. So this movement was started. This person has talked about social reforms and the impact is there. You can observe the impact in the southern part of India specifically. Now there were some reforms related to caste angle and there were some reforms related to emancipation of women. So what he did, first of all, he said that women should have equal property rights just as men have. And they specifically focused on the caste names. They said that we will not have any kind of caste names. So if you go to southern part of India, in most of the region you will observe that people will not make use of caste names, which is usually a normal case in the northern part of India. Okay, and specifically Periyar said that when it comes to marriage, we usually observe that a marriage is not considered as a marriage without a priest. if the priest is there and priest allows that marriage to take place, he goes ahead with those rituals and all, only then we consider it as marriage in a traditional terms. Periyar said, no, this will not happen. We will have a different marriage, and that is self-respect marriage. Self-respect marriage means we will not bring any Brahman or any priest to our marriage. We will have it on your own. This marriage is termed as self-respect marriage. Now, at that time, nobody, specifically the society or the government at that time, they were not accepting this marriage as a legal marriage. But after some time, in the year 1967, the DMK government, they legalized this self-respect marriage in Tamil Nadu with this particular act, Hindu Marriage Madras Amendment Act 1967. So we see the impact of Periyar's contribution even after his death. So this is all about Periyar, which you must know. Now recently, the article which came in the newspaper, they said that there is a need of self-respect 2.0 movement. Right now, we are facing so many social problems. To solve them, for the emancipation of many people, we need a different movement in the form of self-respect 2.0. Now, what kind of challenges we are facing? One of the challenge is cultural homogenization. Now, if you look at the southern part of India, they may say that Hindi is being imposed in the southern part, or the Sanskritization is taking place. Or if you talk about the entire India, you will observe that the domination of English culture due to globalization is taking place. So this is cultural homogenization. Homogenization means becoming similar. Let's say in India there were thousands of languages. Nowadays most of the people speak one language, that is English or Hindi, you can say. So you are homogenizing, you are making people same. Earlier people were very much diverse. This is homogenization. Then second, we can talk about the issue of LGBTQ, the rights of LGBTQ community. They too need a self-respect movement just like untouchables or lower caste people had. And then we can talk about intersectionality. What is intersectionality? It says that when you look at oppression, discrimination or something wrong taking place, there is some sections within different sections which are facing different kinds of problem. For example, in India, women are considered to be oppressed. They are vulnerable. They are oppressed by the entire society. But there are different sections within women. We can say women coming from upper caste and women coming from lower caste. Both are facing different kinds of problem. Then again, we can divide them in poor and rich. So rich women have different problems, poor women have different problems. So if you go with this intersectionality logic, you will see that the most vulnerable women would be a woman who comes from lower caste as well as belongs to poor class. That woman is the most vulnerable, and we need self-respect movement for such lady. So this is what the article was trying to say. Okay, so all these three articles we have covered successfully. Okay, now we can discuss some practice questions on these topics which we have discussed already. If you want to attempt the quiz directly, you can go to our navigator website. You can just search Narayana IAS Academy. You will reach to the website. There will be an option wherein you can read the daily news analysis, whatever I have shown you over here. That will be available on the website directly. And there will be an option to go for the quiz, the prelims quiz as well as the mains practice question, so that you can access directly from the website. Right now, let's start with the questions. Question number 1. Yeah, this one. Which of the following statements best describes a significant aspect of the self-respect movement led by E.V. Ramasamy Periyar? First, it focused primarily on economic reforms and the promotion of industrialization in Tamil Nadu. Second, it aimed to eradicate caste-based discrimination and promote rationalism and gender equality. Now, I don't need to read the entire question. I can know that this is the right answer. Certainly, it wanted to eradicate caste-based discrimination, promote rationalism and gender equality. Simple. Right? So, B is the right answer for this question. Moving ahead, the second question. Just a second. Yeah. Now look at this question. Which of the following statements correctly describes the role of International Telecommunication Union and national regulatory authorities in spectrum management? First, the ITU is responsible for the global management of the radio frequency spectrum and satellite orbits to prevent interference between countries. Obviously, International Telecommunication Union, we started this body under United Nations for the same reason. So the first statement is absolutely right. Then second, national regulatory authorities such as Telecom Regulatory Authority of India are responsible for managing and regulating the use of radio spectrum within their respective national borders. This is also true. And third, ITU has the authority to directly regulate spectrum use within each country's border. Now, this is wrong. When it comes to national, a country's border, if you're talking about what happens within our country, this has nothing to do with ITU. It will our body, because we are a sovereign country. So our body will decide what will happen inside our country. So this statement is wrong. Only 1 and 2A will be the right answer. Okay, just a second. Now next we will discuss mains practice question. Let me check any question if anyone has asked. No? Okay. Now next is our mains practice question. Examine the reasons behind Russia's pivot towards Asia, particularly India, and assess the impact on India-Russia relations. So first of all, they have asked what are the reasons behind Russia's pivot, why Russia is changing its foreign policy. We have already discussed. So first of all, start with a brief about Russia's strategic shift, or you can even talk about geopolitical shift taking place throughout the world and give a contextual understanding related to Russia. This is how you can introduce. After which, in the body part, first mention all those reasons why Russia is doing this. So you can talk about Western sanctions, economic isolation, they want to diversify, they want to strengthen relationship with neutral partners like India, like China. All of this you can mention. After which you can talk about impact on India-Russia relations. This has been directly asked. So what will be the impact? So you can show the impact in both manners, positive as well as negative. Positive, you can say that our trade is increasing, energy partnership increasing, defense partnership increasing, all of these angles. But we are facing some challenges also. Challenges such as self-reliance policies. Now this is a negative aspect. It is also an impact to some extent, but this you can talk about. The logistical constraints, all of these you can mention. And in conclusion, you can be optimistic about India-Russia relations. You can show that Russia has been a time-tested friend and we should have a strategic partnership which is built on trust. So you can suggest some measures. You can give a way forward what else India can do in this. So this is how we can cover the entire answer. Okay. So I hope you liked this video. If you have any doubts, I would suggest in the lecture, please ask. In next time also, if you have any doubts related to any topic, any article, please ask in the comment box. And yeah, thank you so much. Let's meet again in the next lecture.